takes its name from the fastest diving animal on Earth. With 190 horsepower, it accelerates from 0 to 100 km/h in just 2.421 seconds. With launch control, cruise control, and the ABS, if you dare to remove the speed limiter, the explosive power that approaches 500 km/h will absolutely blow your mind. That's right, this is the Suzuki Hayabusa, known as a land-based aircraft that dares to go head-to-head with fighter jets. Born purely for high-speed cruising, every line of its design has been wind tunnel tested. Unlike those high-strung track machines, the Hayabusa remains rock-steady even at 300 km/h. Since the first generation debuted in 1999, its clear goal was to become the world's fastest production motorcycle, and it truly achieved that. The first step in building the Hayabusa, building the engine. The Suzuki Hayabusa is powered by 1340cc liquid-cooled inline-4 engine. As this is its primary source of power, every step of the process must be precise. For instance, a freshly cast crankshaft is immediately sent to the workstation, where a red abrasive strip polishes the main journal, with the width of the strip perfectly matching the diameter of the journal. Thanks to the water flow, this process is much faster than expected. The second step is measurement. Once polishing is complete, the probe above clamps onto the journal. Data such as contact surface precision and surface smoothness are displayed in the control room, so no flaw can escape the watchful eye of the monitoring system. On the Suzuki assembly line, busy workers are hard at work installing engines. Before each insertion, they secure the piston ring, hold it firmly with both hands, and with a single inward push, it slides right into place. Due to its high efficiency and speed, this technique has been adopted by major repair shops as well. Next, place the crankshaft at the front of the cylinder block and simultaneously install the 7-piece high-speed gear set. Finally, add another set of small gears, connecting the front and rear. At this point, the aluminum engine cylinder head can be bolted on. Although this is a motorcycle engine, its actual assembled size is already comparable to that of a car. Now, we begin installing the engine clutch, which consists of the clutch basket, clutch plates, pressure plate, and clutch springs. Then, the worker tightens the 10 associated bolts. Next to be installed are the engine starter and the oil filter on the right. The way they are positioned on opposite sides is quite ingenious. The engine powering the Suzuki Hayabusa is a liquid-cooled unit with an actual displacement of 1340cc, capable of producing 190 horsepower. Crucially, this is with Suzuki's self-imposed speed limiter, which is far from the Hayabusa's true top speed. It is said that the British company TTS once created a heavily modified version of the Hayabusa, and after the tuning, the performance reached an incredible 370 horsepower. You should know that this performance far exceeds that of most cars you see on the road. Moving on to the testing phase, every assembled engine is run on a test bench for 2 minutes. Only when all parameters and performance metrics meet the standards is it moved to the warehouse for storage. But the most interesting design feature has to be the fuel tank. During the forming stage, workers first lay the steel plate onto the mold. Then, they operate a stamping press that descends with thousands of tons of force, using the mold's unique contours to shape the steel into any desired form. To achieve a 20-liter storage capacity, workers place 2 sets of steel plates onto a workstation shielded by a yellow glass cover. Once in position, the hidden welding torch activates instantly, but this creates another issue with the seal. It's worth noting that a freshly welded fuel tank can't be used right away. Instead, a pipe is inserted into the filler neck and a specific amount of air pressure is pumped in. The pressure is kept well within safe limits, and then all that's left is to stand back and watch. If bubbles appear, it's clearly defective. While the method is traditional, it's the same inspection process that's been used for years. Meanwhile, in the workshop next door, they're crafting the most critical component, the Hayabusa frame. Simply put, the Hayabusa uses a twin spar structure. These arms that cradle the engine are what provide its torsional rigidity. At speeds exceeding 300 km/h, this structure keeps the body stable, preventing twisting or deformation. However, a plain aluminum alloy clearly doesn't meet aesthetic expectations, so the second layer of paint, applied after electrophoresis, is also underway. The number of paint layers is the same as on a car. The final layer, a pearlescent clear coat, is then directly applied to the motorcycle. These decorative panels are usually made of industrial plastic. You could opt for carbon fiber, but it's really not as cost-effective as plastic. Keep in mind that with a motorcycle weighing around 250 kilograms, it's heartbreaking to see it tip over on either side. Now, we move on to the final assembly. First, we mount the tires onto the twin spar frame, while the space at the front, which wraps around like a pair of arms, is perfectly designed to protect the engine. Next, simply place the frame carefully on top and tighten the 6 included screws. Then remove the transport bracket on the left side. Unlike the rear wheel, the front wheel is secured by an additional large nut, and the 2 front axles connect to the handlebars. This seemingly subtle design is the very finishing touch that defines the motorcycle. The 2 at the front are responsible for steering, while the one at the back bears the weight. Dozens of workstations are distributed along this endless assembly line, and each worker has only 5 short minutes from start to finish, so they must install every part as quickly as possible within the allotted time. For example, the exhaust pipe and heat shield, the worker is currently tightening, each take less than 60 seconds to install. The heat shield is a device located directly beneath the fuel tank to provide thermal insulation, and the radiator he pulls out next is the second key component of this assembly. Unlike standard street bikes, the Suzuki Hayabusa must dissipate the intense heat generated by its 2.4-second 0-100 km/h acceleration, making this the optimal configuration at the time. At this point, the second exhaust pipe and fuel tank cover are assembled simultaneously, along with a pair of all-metal rear-view mirrors. However, what matters most to the rider isn't any of these, but the speedometer on the dashboard. The available space here is incredibly tight. You honestly couldn't even fit a single finger inside. This engineered structure is specifically designed to mount yet another one of those eye-catching fairings. The board itself is barely larger than a human head, yet it is the final design arrived at after dozens of rigorous lab iterations. You would almost think they were just recklessly burning through the entire project budget. Once the final 2 plastic pieces are assembled, it's almost a sight to behold. For passers-by, the most distinctive feature of the Suzuki Hayabusa is undoubtedly the special lettering on its body. The first is none other than Suzuki, and the second is Hayabusa, representing Suzuki's prowess. This Hayabusa is emblazoned on the protective panels on both sides of the motorcycle. No wonder some people say that buying a Suzuki Hayabusa is really just for the badge. You might drive a Suzuki car and no one would notice, but if you ride this out, everyone knows it's a bike worth over 200,000 because this thing is just so iconic. Finally, let's talk about the history of the Hayabusa. The Suzuki Hayabusa was born in the late 90s, right in the middle of that crazy arms race. At the time, the Honda CBR 1100XX Super Blackbird, also known as the Blackbird, was hailed as the king of speed in the global motorcycle world. Suzuki's sole objective in creating the Hayabusa was to defeat the Blackbird. Thus, the first generation GSX 1300R was officially released in 1999. This was fitting as the Hayabusa is inherently aggressive and is a bird of prey that specifically hunts blackbirds. As everyone expected, Suzuki reached a top speed of 312 km/h with its 1298cc engine, earning it the title of Land Missile. Later, they established a restrictive agreement, and that era of titans clashing slowly came to an end.